Can the sitting president of one country also serve as the acting president of another country? What repercussions will the world have to face of these growing escalations between the US and Venezuela? In this session, we will find out. Hello students, welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nandkyoliar. Let's get started. Now, before we talk about the escalations between US and Venezuela, let me just quickly tell you that we have this new course for you, which is the Studio GS Foundation live online course. Here, you're going to get a complete coverage of your UPSC Prelims and main syllabus in English, Hindi and Hinglish formats to choose from at a very affordable price of only rupees 24,999. And if you wish to avail a further discount on this fee, then please use my coupon code, which is SALONI, Saloni. SALONI, all in block letters only, and you will be able to get the maximum benefit. So hurry, as the admissions have already begun, and this is a completely free course for all the students who are planning to join our offline foundation batch in future, because this fee is going to be adjusted in the fees of our offline foundation batch. So do not wait. Please call us at 87501 to get all the information, and you can also download the Drishti Learning app and enroll into this course and use the coupon code SALONI to get the maximum discount. Now let's see what's happening in the US and Venezuela. So in a social media post, the president of US, Mr. Donald Trump, has self-proclaimed himself to be the acting president of Venezuela, incumbent January 2026. So we know that US had launched a military operation on Venezuela and captured Mr. Nicolás Maduro and his wife, who are right now facing charges of narco-terrorism and drug trafficking in the US court. Now, while all of this has been happening, Mr. Trump has declared himself to be the acting president of Venezuela. Now, does this have any legal or constitutional backing? No. Does this mean that Trump is actually the president of Venezuela? No. This is just not a subtle way of telling the world that US is going to control Venezuela, particularly the oil reserves of Venezuela. Because as per the constitutional provisions of Venezuela, Miss Delcy Rodríguez is the interim president of Venezuela, and she has been rejecting US claims of authority over Venezuela and has been demanding the release of Mr. Maduro. In fact, this military operation was condemned by a lot of countries of the world, and United Nations also condemned it. It was called a blatant attack on the sovereignty of Venezuela. But US has been wanting to deal with the oil reserves of the region, to gain control over the oil reserves of the region. Now, why are the oil reserves of Venezuela so important for the US? That's also important for us to know. So if we talk about the oil reserves, then Venezuela holds one of the largest proven oil reserves in the world. And if we talk of the numbers, it is 303.2 billion barrels of oil. So Venezuela is at the first position when it comes to the oil reserves in the world. And at the second position, we have Saudi Arabia with 267.2 billion barrels. And if you look at the difference between the first and second rankers, then the gap also is huge, which means that Venezuela has huge reserves of oil, and that's why US wants to have control of these reserves. But the problem here has been is that though Venezuela has the great oil reserves, it does not have the technology required for the refinement and production of this oil. Because if you look at the production capacity of Venezuela, it is somewhere around 1 million barrels of oil per day, which is nothing when compared to the oil reserves of Venezuela. So Venezuela lacks in technology, an area where the US shines. So what is the plan of US? The plan of US is to get these to get the crude oil from Venezuela, refine it in the US, and then sell it either domestically or internationally to have this money, to earn this money. And in an official statement, the US has also said that a shipment of some 30 to 50 million barrels of oil is already on its way to the US, and the US has been saying that it is not stealing this oil. This oil is being sent to US as per an agreement with the current interim regime in Venezuela, and the plan of US here is to refine this oil and then sell it either domestically or internationally and earn money from it. And all this money is going to be used for the benefit of the people in both the countries of US as well as Venezuela. This is what US has been claiming. In fact, US has also been asking the American companies to come and invest some $100 billion in the Venezuelan oil market. But the CEOs of some major companies have been saying that this is a distant dream, because for these companies to invest or start operating in Venezuela, they'll need to have proper policy reforms, legal reforms, economic reforms in Venezuela, which is not the case right now. So though this looks like a distant dream, but right now the vision of US is to gain access to these oil reserves so that it can take crude oil from Venezuela, refine it in its own country, and then sell it to the outside world. Now, the people of other countries or other countries in general are also not happy with it, but particularly China is very unhappy with this arrangement, because China had loaned a lot of money to Venezuela, and Venezuela as a mode of repayment was using oil, using these oil barrels, using crude oil to be sent to China. Now with the intervention of US, this dynamics is also going to suffer. That is why China particularly is not happy with this setup. And globally also, this would not mean that there will be an immediate oil price rise in the global market, because largely we have seen a slight overproduction, a moderate overproduction of global oil, because all these oil producing nations, they have been working at their capacity and there has been a slight overproduction of oil. So we have things covered for now, but in the larger run the dynamics are going to change, because all the countries who were currently buying this crude oil from Venezuela will now have to deal with the US. And if we talk about the consequences for India also, so though India right now is not a lot of import dependent on Venezuelan oil, but our dynamics also might change with US now coming into picture. We might want to recalibrate our missions, and we might want to recalibrate our operations over there. Though India believes in strategic autonomy, so we do not really know what kind of moves will the Indian government take over here, but there can be certain recalibration in the entire dynamics, because now the oil reserves are being controlled by the US government. So let's see what happens over here, but as an immediate next step, we are not going to see a huge or a sudden price rise in the global oils, because there is a moderate overproduction of oil right now. But the dynamics of Venezuelan oil buying countries are going to change, because US is now coming into the picture. So let's see what happens. But now let us look at a practice question for prelims. Consider the following statements regarding the Venezuelan oil crisis in January 2026. 1. The United States declared control over Venezuelan oil exports and redirected some barrels to the US market. 2. Venezuela's oil output is currently more than 5 million barrels per day, making it a major player in global oil supply. 3. Global oil markets are facing a moderate oversupply, limiting immediate price spikes. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 and 2 only, B. 2 only, C. 1 and 3 only, or D. 2 and 3 only. Please provide your answers in the comment section and we will meet in a new video. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.